Good. We're back, and we got the F-16C. We're on the runway, and we're checking the controls. We're doing our pre-flight check and doing the big ol' DCS light sim larping because this plane. People keep asking me when I say people, it's like two. Say, oh, play some top tier. Show us how the F-16C is again, and I don't. I don't enjoy the F-16C. I don't enjoy playing the US side of top tier right now because the things that I said when the F-16C first came out, after 3 months of the game gesticulating and metastasizing and a meta developing, everything that I said largely in the beginning is still largely true. The F-16C is the top dog. The AIM-9M is very much perfectly suited for top tier sim in basically two ways. Number one, it's very maneuverable, hard to flare, and two, because of the smokeless motor, the other guy cannot react, and you are also not telegraphing where you are to the enemy team. So all in all, the weapon set that this has, just 6.9Ms, that's what I run. It's very easy, and it means that a lot of the time that just playing this plane for me is just kind of like a point and click adventure. Like, you're going to see gameplay. There's gameplay in the background. It exists. Okay, cool. Who cares? And the reason I say who cares is because this is one of my first top tier games in a while, and I am definitely out of practice, and I'm definitely not as in tune on the new joystick as I was on the old one. Like, the buttons are in slightly different places, and doing all of the radar manipulation, the missile manipulation, it's not as smooth. And even with the flight model changes, with the changes to joystick curves, like, I'm not as efficient as I used to be. I'm not doing anything particularly good or insightful here. There's really nothing for me to show you because, like, oh yeah, I got in a dogfight with a MiG-29. Okay, cool. You turn twice and you're behind him for all intents and purposes. The 29, even with the changes to the flight model since my last video, it's more competitive, but it's still uncompetitive. And it's uncompetitive in just the meta of being perpetually down 5 players most of the time. And for people that are trying to learn, like, there's nothing to learn, there's nothing to enjoy. Like, nobody wants to play top tier, get slammed 5 times in a row, and realize they're out so much money that they have to go play naval for like 4 hours. Like, it's just not fun. And that's why you don't really see it on this channel, because, like, I play things that I enjoy, and I play things that I think I can show, like, some kind of, like, teachable moment from. And this thing, there is nothing to teach. Just fly around, shoot dynams at things. And that is the current meta of top tier. And the thing is, we're going to build some hype. We're going to build some hype for the new update, because we are right around Christmas time, and we should be expecting the Gripen, because that was hinted at very much earlier this year. It wasn't even hinted at, it was like blatantly stated. We should expect the Gripen, and we also might get the F-15 and the Su-27. Now, hopefully, on the day the patch drops, or whenever I get around to playing top tier again, maybe the Su-27 comes out, and I'll be like, hey, this changes everything. Top tier is, once again, fairly balanced, because in its current state, it's not even close, and it's egregiously unbalanced, even in comparison to the way that it was previously unbalanced. What do I mean by that? Basically, I've been playing top tier since the F-14 was the top dog, and I've played both sides of the meta at all times. Like, I played F-14 versus 23, and also flew 23 against 14. 14 versus 23 on paper is not a fair fight. The 14 should win, the 14 has better weapon systems, etc., etc., etc. But that performance gap, and the fact that the 23M, LD, the ML, and the M, and whatever the fuck, they had all aspect heat-seeking missiles, and the R60Ms back in the good old days they weren't flare resistant, but they were better than what we currently have as far as the R60M goes. It was a better missile, and the F-14 did not have all aspect heat seekers, so if it got down to the dogfight, there was times where you could shoot a missile at the F-14 and he just didn't have the ability to shoot at you. Also, the F-14 ran really hot. What this means is that one of my early sim experiences is me and my buddy, old clickbait god slash Finn McMissile slash Gunpod Gary. They're all the same guy, just different names. We could go into a top tier match against like a dedicated squadron like Reaper that we're all flying F-14s, and like one of my earliest unlisted videos is literally just me and him flying 23 MLDs against them, and like we did good. We went, I want to say, roughly 1.5 to 1, and when you're fighting literally 2 versus, I want to say 6, that's not bad. That's not bad at all, and that means that like when you get to experience that, you at least have the illusion that there's some kind of push and pull, and that the F-14 at the time had like at least a learning curve to it, because like to dogfight in an F-14, you still have to like manually sweep the wings. You have to set it up ahead of time to actually do well in it, and you have to be able to balance your attention between inside the cockpit and outside the cockpit. It's not as simple as just go up to 90 gajillion kilometers and launch AIM-54s for the win. Now, the problem with the F-16s and the problem with the current matchmaker is that there's not enough 29 pilots, and the 29 isn't competitive enough. It doesn't have enough of the good missiles to really outweigh its disadvantages. It also has a smoke trail, and that means that when you are disadvantaged, when you have a +5 disadvantage, you have 5 other people looking for you. That smoke trail goes straight back to your plane. They see you. If they engage you, if you get engaged in a 2v1, it's kind of sort of over. Now, for inexperienced players, this really sucks, and that means that they don't stick around, because why would they? You play the game and it's like, oh yeah, this is obviously rigged against us, because that's what it's going to feel like. On the other hand, if you play the F-16C or you play anything in the US side right now, because of the team imbalance and because of the capability imbalance, you win over 90% of your games. My win rate in the F-16C right now is sitting at 98%. It is so good that it is boring. Now, with the new update, what should we expect from the F-15 and the Su-27, the Gripen, and whatnot? The biggest potential change is the addition of active radar homing missiles, Fox 7s, whatever the fuck it is. They might end up working very similar to Sparrows, that you just don't have to perpetually guide towards your target. They still might be susceptible to the same kind of counters as, okay, cool, we just fly low, and if they add the F-15C, they add the Su-27, they add the R-77, they add the Gripen, the fly on the deck meta just might be even more strictly enforced. Now, there's a different way they could go with it. Maybe because of secret documents TM, the active radar homing missiles that are going to possibly get added in the update will nullify the fly on the deck meta, fly at 0 feet meta. Maybe. I don't see that happening, and I don't think that change will necessarily be good for the USSR side of the matchmaker. And I don't necessarily think it'll be good for top tier sim, because you put an F-15 in the game with its gajillion AMRAMs, the game could very easily just turn into, there are too many missiles in the air for red team to defend against at the same time. Like, you can notch one, but by notching one, you are angling into another one, and there's just not enough that you can do on maps these size, especially something like Denmark. Yeah, it's a big map, but everyone knows where you're going to be because all the spawns are consolidated. And it means that the cycle of red team being perpetually dog shit or being dogged on, it could continue and it could get worse. Now, on the other hand, maybe the Su-27 comes in and like, hey, they add the R-77, and maybe in a certain case the 77 is mediocre, the AMRAM is mediocre, you can just fly on the deck. Maybe a Su-27 that carries a bajillion R-27 ETs, basically a bunch of heat seeker missiles, could be viable. Maybe just adding more missiles to the air could overwhelm the blue team, and maybe things get more balanced, but also in that balance, things are probably going to get a lot more hectic, and that's going to probably turn off some of the players that imagine Sim as this kind of like a little bit slower game mode. It's really not slower. It's almost just as fast as a top tier RB, just in like slightly different methods. Like, you're not looking at the markers and reacting to them, but you are looking at the radar, you're looking at the RWR, and you still have to really try to maintain situational awareness. And with guys that can shoot you from distances you can't see, distances that you can't perceive, and especially with missiles that you can't flare them because you can't see them in time, it creates an environment that is just as hectic. It feels like switching from props it's like when I play this, I feel like I need to have ADHD medication, to be honest. And especially on even these bigger maps, there are points where you realize there's 3 enemies nearby. What do I do? And in some cases, I think that might be the gameplay that people aren't necessarily imagining themselves doing well in. And there's tactics to it, there's strategy to it, there's just kind of like game awareness to it. But I don't necessarily think the Su-27 and the F-15 are going to change like the dynamics that we have. Now, I haven't really mentioned the Gripen, but the Gripen it's an F-16C basically with AMRAAMs. And maybe Gaijin goes the route where we're going to give the really, really good missiles, the AMRAAMs, to planes that are at like a disadvantage. So maybe we get like an F-4F ICE that gets AMRAAMs, maybe they give the Tornado AMRAAMs, and maybe everybody else kind of gets like the current like legacy quote-unquote missiles. That could be interesting to a point. I also think that we're probably just going to get AMRAAMs, and I also expect that they're just going to be broken on day one. I think all of the new missiles will be broken on day one, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. They just might leave the rails and just explode. Like, that is 100% a possibility with the way that Gaijin has modeled things in the past. It's been very inconsistent. Like, eventually Warthunder does do missiles pretty well, but the process of getting there, the process of getting to like an end result is the game always feels like we're just in a perpetual beta test, to be honest. And that's one of the things that always kind of makes it feel a little bit unsatisfying, especially in Sim, just because the game mode that we play is enduring confrontation, but it feels like a lot of the AI mechanics, a lot of like the idea that doing a thing will result in a thing and result in an advantage just doesn't seem to apply. All of these objectives that you can do, they don't really feel like they have any weight to them as you're doing them. Like, I never shoot a missile at an AI target because it feels like a waste of time. I know I can always go up and just shoot it with a gun, and even then, focusing on AI targets as opposed to players always seems to not really matter. It's not satisfying to kill like the coastal pillbox or whatever, the stationary thing. It's also not satisfying to launch like a Maverick missile at something and just have it not die too, because the tank damage models, the splash damage or whatever they do in the game is kind of like, it's better than DCS because it's not a health bar, but also it's not as perfect. Anyways, that's going to be the end of the Warthunder video. Hopefully you enjoyed the F-16C carrier landing that I just slammed in the middle of the game. And hopefully by the time we get back to the next update, maybe things are better. Although, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. Like, it could just get a lot worse. Anyways, that's the video. If you like what I do, give me a like, give me a subscribe. If you don't, I don't know, put hate mail in the comments. It's fine. I'll probably respond to it and then focus on killing you in the Warthunder game. It'll be funny. Anyways, that's it. Good night.